So Andy, we are back for Epic Encounters 3, but before we talk about how was Epic Encounters 2 for you? It's your second empty arena show. How are you getting used to it?
I actually think I got used to it a lot quicker than I thought I was going to. I thought that it was going to be very surreal. From the bat, Epic Encounters 1, I thought it was going to be very surreal to kind of experience that kind of no fans, because so often we talk about wrestlers feeding off the energy of fans, and myself as a commentator, I often feed off the energy of the fans, and it gives you that sense of excitement. And whilst the fans are absolutely missed, and my God, they're definitely missed, and we miss that energy, we miss that level of interaction. What I will say is the no fans aspect for me hasn't been as big of an issue as I thought it was going to be. I feel like the wrestlers have really brought their A game, and they are treating this as if they were at a sold out York Hall. The match quality, I don't believe, has suffered, and there's still that energy and franticness that that was there pre-COVID and pre-lockdown. So for me, I don't get me wrong, I can't wait to get back in front of fans, but I'm enjoying these empty arena shows, and I think that it's interesting as well, because we're seeing a different perspective, because we can hear and see everything that's going on. There's no distractions. It's literally wrestler against wrestler in your face, and you get to hear and appreciate the sounds of all the strikes, and yeah, you get even stuff like the heavy breathing. You know, you really get to feel, I think, an appreciation for what you're seeing, and it's almost like you're real up close and personal to the action. I think that yeah, I don't know, I'm enjoying it, and I think that it's an intriguing and interesting concept, and I think that, you know, given the handicaps which were there, which we can't ignore, the wrestlers not having been able to have extensive time in the ring prior to these shows, you know, obviously there's bits of ring rust, you know, some cardio issues here and there, but if anything, that kind of makes the matches even more intriguing and even more exciting. It adds another dimension and layer to them. So it's a crazy world we're living in right now. But I feel we are making the best of a should we say, a bad situation, an unfortunate situation. And that's all we can do. My goal has always, with professional wrestling, being about creating a sense of escapism for people. So you watch that show for the 2-3 hours you're there, and for those 2-3 hours, that's all you're thinking about, all you're worrying about, and you can forget about the real world for a couple of hours and just have a good time and watch some professional wrestling. And that's, you know, the mission statement hasn't changed. That's still what we're doing, still very, very high quality stuff. Yeah, and I'm enjoying it.
I guess when this, started, it would have been out of necessity, but with everything going so well with the empty arena shows, and you never quite know what's coming next in this COVID world, are you so comfortable with the empty arena shows that that's something you would just like to continue with for the foreseeable future?
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting question. I mean, for me, look, we've made no secret about the fact that we want to get back in front of crowds as soon as possible. We had targeted an October date, October 30th or 31st, for Stevenage, but that date's unfortunately not going to happen anymore. We've rescheduled to May of 2021 for that show. So that gives you an idea of kind of where we're looking. We've been looking at running shows in front of crowds. We've been looking at the government guidelines, the guidance. We'd be running at 1/3 roughly capacity if we sold tickets in groups of 4 on average. Obviously, you can sell up to a group of 6 in a in a sale. But obviously, every single time someone purchases an individual ticket, then that minimizes the capacity that little bit further. So it's an interesting concept. But it's certainly something we've looked into, because obviously why wouldn't we look into it? And for a little while, you know, obviously there was a message from the Prime Minister whereby he seemed to think everyone would be back to normal by Christmas, and then obviously a few weeks later, apparently not. So surprise, another mixed message from our wonderful government. But obviously with everything flaring up again, it's not a risk that I want to take. So I think for the foreseeable future, you will see empty arena shows from Rev Pro. I think obviously if anything were to change, then yes, we would move. We're in a position whereby this is our full-time jobs here. This is what we do. So we're in a position to move quickly. If stuff does change with a click of the fingers, then we're going to adapt and we're going to move. You know, countless hours of research, hours of research around COVID-19, around the guidelines, around best practice, around what we should be doing, etc., is being undertaken on a daily basis. There's not a day that goes by when we don't do some more research into this thing. Learning from best practice from these tapings, and making sure that everyone is as safe as possible is absolutely paramount. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. You know, there is no 100% safe way of doing this. There's no 100% safe way. The world we live in right now, there's no 100% safe way of living our lives. So what we have to do is we have to minimize the risks. We have to put in as many layers of protection as possible, for our staff, for our wrestlers, and for our fans. And right now, I feel like I can't in good conscience say that, you know, bringing fans into a building, into an indoor space, and running a show with fans, I can't say that that's a risk that I want to take myself, nor a risk I want my wrestlers to have to take right now. And given the fact that cases are rising, so for me, the safest and best thing to do right now is stick to the empty arena format. Like I say, we've learned a lot of best practice in running these empty arena shows now. We will continue to do the absolute best to protect our talents. And like I say, everything we do, we add layers of precaution. So be it COVID testing, keeping people in a hotel bubble, you know, desanitizing the ringside area, desanitizing the ring after every contest, referee wearing gloves and changing them between each contest. Everything we're doing, and that's not an exclusive list. There's obviously a lot more protocols on the list that's just rattling off at the top of my head. But everything we're doing, we add those layers of protection, you know, to protect ourselves the best we can. There's not going to be a perfect answer, but we are so determined to keep this business going. We are so determined to be able to continue to pay our wrestlers, and for them to be able to do what they love. And there is huge mental health benefits from being able to do this as well, which I don't think can be underemphasized. But these guys and girls, you know, they were used to being superheroes, for lack of a better term, you know, when they have these shows and being a wrestler, and being these larger than life characters, and room like that is taken away from them. So for these rare occasions we're able to run shows, it gives them just that little glimpse of feeling normal again. And I think that that's so important. And you hear the government talking about the economy all the time, and the balance between health and economy, and etc. Trust me when I say running these shows isn't a financially smart decision for me. However, obviously it does generate some cash flow. It does create an opportunity to pay the wrestlers. And I genuinely hope that we are creating some brand loyalty from running these shows, and people appreciating the efforts. And I know that I know our roster really appreciate the efforts we're going to make this stuff happen, and this stuff happen safely. And hopefully, long term, it will pay off. You know, the short-term hit will be a long-term gain. And as we get going, as we do more, we're learning more. Every single show, we're learning more. And yeah, like, so foreseeable, this is our new normal. But you know, I'm not, you know, who can predict how long we're going to be doing empty arena shows for? Because, you know, if you were to tell me we'd be sat in what are we in now? Are we September? Or we're coming into October, aren't we? Are we in October yet? No, a couple of days when we're recording this. But we're approaching October. By the time Epic Encounters 3 airs, it's October 4th, this Sunday, October 4th. We're in October already. And if you told me that, you know, the shows that I'd rescheduled in March and I'd rescheduled through to July, August, I would have then had to reschedule to October, and I'd then be looking and going, I think we need to reschedule to next year. And don't get me wrong, we're not going to turn the page on. We're not going to go from December 2020, January 2021, and everything's going to be fine and we're back to normal. You know, I think a lot of people are banking on that, but just because we change year, I don't think anything's going to change. So for the foreseeable future, this will be Rev Pro, but we will continue to produce content. We'll continue to run shows. We'll continue to do it in the safest way possible. And we will continue to have the commitment to producing the best matches featuring the best wrestlers. Just because it's not in front of any fans, it doesn't mean that the quality of a card is going to be any less, as I'm sure this Sunday's cards will tell you.
Well, let's take a look at this Sunday's cards. So we're starting off with Mad Kurt and Gideon Gray. I feel like lockdown isn't something that Mad Kurt would have dealt with pretty well.
Well, I think Mad Kurt may be one of the only wrestlers who, during lockdown, has been able to increase his stock value, so to speak, because fortunately for him, he's very good at being sat behind a keyboard and hiding indoors. So I think as far as Mad Kurt goes, I think that he's got himself a bit of a cult following over these lockdown months, and you know, the fact that gyms weren't open didn't really bother him. Don't know why. But he certainly believes his own hype. So we'll see when he goes up against Gideon Gray, if that fares him well or not. I personally think this is an intriguing match between two very underrated technicians. And I think that, you know, Mad Kirk can go. You know, he may not display it all the time, but he can go. Gideon Gray, I think, for my money, is probably up there with the best technicians in Revolution Pro Wrestling. And again, he's someone who may not display it very often, but he may sell himself short with the way he goes about his business. But I think this is an opportunity for both men to have a bit of a coming out party, show what they're capable of. So I personally think that this is going to be an intriguing clash between two very good ground-based wrestlers who aren't afraid to strike as well. So yeah, I think stylistically they match each other perfectly. They know each other very well. They came through our Portsmouth School of Wrestling together. They never really associated with each other outside of practice. But yeah, like in terms of competition, in terms of in-ring, intriguing.
And we've really seen the women step up over these shows. And now we have Jamie Hayter taking on Bobby Tyler, two women that know each other from Japan, but seem to be wanting to make a name for themselves in Rev Pro. What can you see coming from this match?
I think it's going to be fast-paced and hard-hitting. Anyone who knows Jamie Hayter knows she's only got one speed. It's like, go, forward, 100 miles per hour. She's hard-hitting, smash-mouth style wrestler. I think Bobby Tyler, in her mind, has got a lot to prove. I feel like she will probably be going into this match with the mindset of wanting to take the fight to Jamie Hayter to prove that she can go, that she can stand and strike. Again, another interesting contest. Again, another two people who've come through the Portsmouth School of Wrestling. Always been on opposite sides of the fence. When they went to Japan, one was in Uedo Tai, one in Tokyo Cyber Squad. Opposite sides of the fence here, back to Rev Pro, opposite sides of the fence again. So they've always been competing. Their whole lives, their whole professional wrestling lives, they've been competing against one another. And that spirit of competition often brings out the best in people. And as you say, like these empty arena shows have been a great highlight for the women's division. And I think the re-emergence of Jamie Hayter and the re-emergence of Bobby Tyler, two women who've been away from Rev Pro for quite some time prior to this set of shows, I think has only helped to strengthen and add depth to that division. So again, another exciting matchup, another chance for women to show what they're all about. And I think that, you know, one thing that I've always been clear about with Rev Pro, with the women's division, and I believe, again, for the first time in a long time, I believe we're now at a stage where we finally have a competitive division rather than just the need for one match on the card, because, you know, I feel like we have got a competitive division that's got depth. There's a lot of girls who are, you know, chomping at the bit, waiting to come back, waiting to get back into the mix as well, which I think is very exciting. And, you know, it's a great problem for me to have in terms of matchmaking. And I think you're going to see a lot more added emphasis on that women's division moving forward. And again, a lot of that is in part due to people like, you know, Bobby Tyler, Jamie Hayter coming back. And yeah, and I think that we're in a stage where it's these women, they're not here to make up the numbers. They're not here to be a women's match. They're here to be a professional wrestling match. And that's all I've ever wanted. All I've ever wanted is for them to have a level playing field and be treated just as professional wrestlers. So, and you know, there's always been a pressure on me. You should have more women's matches on your shows, but I feel like there were times when, it's probably going to get me in trouble, but there were times when I'd say, what match are you going to take off the card in order to put a women's match in its place? Like, realistically, in terms of match quality, in terms of intensity, in terms of, you know, adding to the show, you know, what match are we going to take off the card? And what these women have done is they've gone about their business, they've trained so hard, and they've got themselves to that level whereby it's a professional wrestling match. It's not a women's match, it's a professional wrestling match. And I'm proud of them, and I'm proud of our entire women's division, and I'm so happy that we've finally got to this stage where I can say that. And again, I don't want anyone to misconstrue my words in any way, shape, or form. I just want to treat everyone as equals, and like I say, I'm genuinely putting these women over, and the position we're in right now, there's so many intriguing and exciting matches, and this is just another example of that.
So something that's turning into quite the series is Kenneth Halfpenny and Brendan White. Kenneth, he hasn't been able to get the win yet. What do you think he can do this time to beat Brendan?
Well, it's getting quite embarrassing for him, isn't it? So, again, Kenneth Halfpenny is an intriguing character. I keep using the word intriguing. I'm going to take a shot every time Andy says the word intriguing. Kenneth Halfpenny is a terrible, terrible loser, and he's perhaps an even worse winner. You'll see after every contest, he has an excuse. I think he needs to move away from that for his progression in the world of professional wrestling. I think he needs to start looking in the mirror and focusing on the holes in his game. But he's also a student of the game. And I believe he will have studied Brendan White. I believe he will have cleaned up some of the holes in his game. And I believe he'll be bringing the fight to Brendan White. Now, the challenge here for Brendan White is not to take Kenneth Halfpenny lightly. He's got 2 wins under his belt. That doesn't mean that a third is going to come automatically. But Kenneth Halfpenny wanted to make this best of 5 series. This best of 5 series could be over, all said and done, come the close of play on Sunday. But I think that both these guys, they've been given an opportunity to shine. It's a very hard position for them to be in with, again, so little experience, and working in front of no fans, having no fans to play off, you know, yet they're bringing it. Both encounters, they brought it, and I expect this Sunday's encounter to be absolutely no different. I think that they bring out the best and worst in each other. Well, They definitely bring out the best in each other. Brendan White perhaps brings out the worst in Kenneth Halfpenny in terms of, being that sore loser. But I hope for Kenneth Halfpenny's sanity that he's able to peg one back on Sunday, because I hate to think what his excuse would be if he doesn't get the W in this one.
Next we have JJ Gale and Robbie X, and JJ's a real rising star, and he showed so much fire against Mark Haskins, but he didn't get the win. Do you think that he's maybe learned anything from that experience that will help him against Robbie X?
I think he learns something every single time he steps foot in a ring. I think that there's no way he doesn't learn. I think that the fact that if you look at his career trajectory over the last, 12, 18 months in Rev Pro, each and every single encounter, he's getting better. And he's going to get even better whilst he's working with wrestlers who are of a higher level of experience and technique than him. We saw that with Mark Haskins. We saw him raise his game to Mark Haskins' level as well. It wasn't a case of Mark Haskins coming down to JJ Gale's level. It was JJ Gale coming up to Mark Haskins' level. And I think he competed. He was competitive. I don't think anyone expected a huge upset on the night. And I don't think anyone was surprised by the result when Mark Haskins was victorious. But I think many people walked away going, wow, that JJ Gale, guys, he's good. He's real good. And I think that this is another opportunity for JJ Gale to learn from that experience. And the day's going to come, and it may be this Sunday, it may not be, but the day's going to come where JJ Gale takes that extra step and gets a victory. But competing against Robbie X, perhaps the most underrated wrestler in the whole of the UK, the whole of Europe, I feel competing against him, it's going to do his confidence. It's going to do his match strategy, his ring awareness, all of that stuff combined. It's going to do it. It's the world of good. I always say win or learn, but in this case, it's a win-win situation for JJ Gale because he's going to learn. Whatever happens, he's going to learn. And I feel like Robbie X is another opportunity for him to show us what he's all about. And you've heard me call him the most underrated wrestler in Europe. It's not hyperbole. I genuinely believe he is, but now he's starting to get that tag on his back. People are starting to realize and recognize who he is and recognize just how good he is. That starts to bring a pressure to him. So how is he going to handle and cope with that pressure? Again, for JJ Gale, he's got absolutely nothing to lose, but for Robbie X, the more experienced wrestler, the man you'd expect to win, he's got a lot more to lose. So again, another contest which is going to be very interesting to say the least. And I'm excited to see, again, Robbie X, stylistically a little bit similar to Mark Haskins, but I would say his style's much more similar to JJ Gale. I think when JJ Gale looks at Robbie X, he's going to be looking at, this is what I want to be, this is what I want to do in the ring. And I think Robbie X hasn't got that mean streak that Mark Haskins has got. And I think that could play into JJ Gale's favour. So again, interesting match. It's going to be, I think it's going to be spectacular. I think it's going to be hard hitting. I think it's going to be high flying. And I think I definitely want to watch it. So again, that to me is a metric on the way I put cards together. Mm-hmm. JJ Gale versus Robbie X, it sounds like a good match for anyone who knows either wrestler, right? So let's book it, let's watch it. Doesn't matter, there's no fans there. We're going to put on the best matches we can, and we're going to have a lot of fun. And I think this Sunday's no different.
And one I'm really excited for is Zoe Lucas and Aliyah James. Aliyah has had just this incredible fast rise, and that seems to have really annoyed Zoe. Like, she really has it in for Aliyah, it seems. Do you think that could be this focus on her? Could that be Zoe's downfall this Sunday?
I think absolutely. I think that if we rewind to the way this whole thing started, the reason why I believe Zoe Lucas, a former undisputed British Women's Champion, shortly after, maybe 1-2 weeks after losing that British Women's Championship, Zoe Lucas, she went to attack Giselle Shaw. She had a match scheduled with Aliyah James for the following Sunday. She went to attack Giselle Shaw. Aliyah James thwarted that attack. Aliyah James, of course, had been wrestling Giselle Shaw. This was the start of the partnership between Aliyah James and Giselle Shaw. And Aliyah James thwarted that attack. And from that point on, Zoe Lucas was so consumed with getting revenge at Aliyah James for sticking her nose in her business, she took her mind off of her own business. And that was her downfall when it led to their first singles contest in Southampton, when Aliyah James got that 1-2-3 over her. And since that point, it seems like the anger has got more and more. It's almost like a kettle that's boiling, and it's reached boiling point and it's ready to explode this Sunday. But the point is that when Zoe's focused so much on anger and rage, she's not focusing on what brought her to the dance. And yes, absolutely, that tunnel vision could wind up being her downfall, especially when you consider Aliyah James. She's very young into her wrestling career. She's still got so much to learn, and she makes no secret of that fact that she's still got so much to learn. She's still a rookie. But she's had a great deal of success. And the reason she's had so much success early is because she's stayed humble. She's learned from people. You see her taking advice from the women's champion, Giselle Shaw. She takes advice from people like Dan Maloney. You know, she is a student of the game. She's a sponge. She takes it all in. She takes it all in. And you can bet that whilst Zoe Lucas's sole strategy this Sunday is going to be destroying Aliyah James, Aliyah James's sole strategy this Sunday is going to be to win a professional wrestling match. No matter who's put in front of you, to win a professional wrestling match. So, you know, sometimes they say if you can channel your anger, you can channel your hate in the right direction, it can be proved to be very effective. But you still need to be looking either side of that tunnel vision. So we're going to see this Sunday when it comes to Zoe Lucas and Aliyah James. You know, if Zoe Lucas has been taking the right approach, and maybe if she can get her hands on her, get the 1-2-3, get the victory, maybe Zoe Lucas can move on. Maybe she can refocus. Maybe she can look back to trying to recapture that undisputed British Women's Championship, which we know she had such an affinity to and such a bond with over their love affair while she held that championship, who she affectionately termed Bay.
Well, someone who must have a lot of anger they need to channel is RKJ after what happened last time with the Cruiserweight Championship match with Michael Oku. He's taking on Connor Mills. I feel like I would not want to be Connor Mills in this situation with RKJ coming after him.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like I wouldn't, yeah. RKJ is one of, he may be young, but he's one of the most dangerous men in professional wrestling, period. A member of the famous Knight family. He grew up fighting in wrestling rings. You know, he is the real deal. When it comes to a fight, I don't know there's many men that can defeat him in Rev Pro. But what I will say about Connor Mills, and we'll get back to his actions at Epic Encounters too, but what I will say about Connor Mills is I don't think he's fazed in the slightest by Ricky Knight Jr. He calls himself True Grit, and he calls himself True Grit for a reason. It's a name which is given by other people to him. And he is stubborn, he's determined, he's going to dig his heels in, and I believe in his heart of hearts, Connor Mills thinks he can stand and strike and fight, scrap, not technically wrestle, scrap with Ricky Knight Jr. And I think that Connor Mills knows exactly what he's got himself into. And I think that there's a sadistic side of him that is glad that he's got himself into this situation, because it's an opportunity for him to show the wrestling world his true toughness, his true grit. And I think it's going to be a very interesting contest, to say the least. And what's also going to be very interesting is to see Michael Oku's whereabouts during that contest. Michael Oku obviously saying that he didn't want to win that unified Cruiserweight Championship the way he did. Not happy with that victory. Connor Mills perhaps might think he's a bit ungrateful for, his words and the fact that he wasn't happy with the fact that Connor Mills' involvement led directly to that championship victory for Oku. But we know the type of character Michael Oku's shown in the past. We know Michael Oku is all about just getting good. That's what he says. He wants to be good at professional wrestling. And the byproduct of being good is winning championships. he doesn't want it to be the byproduct of making friends is winning championships. He wants it to be the byproduct of being good. So he's obviously dissatisfied, like many of us, like myself, like Ricky Knight Jr., with how that contest ended, if you take him at face value. Now, I said we'd make this right. I'm true to my word. Ricky Knight Jr. wanted Conor Mills first. He's got Conor Mills. He gets through Conor Mills. He gets his rematch with Michael Oku. Very clear. The path for him is very clear. It's almost like one of those action movies where he's got his list. He's coming for revenge. And the first part of that revenge is Conor Mills. And like you say, I wouldn't want to be Conor Mills. However cocky Conor Mills is right now, after he feels that first right hand, I think that cockiness is going to go out the window. It's not going to be one for weak-hearted. I'm predicting it's not going to last long. I would predict a victory for RKJ, but I wouldn't write off Conor Mills because, like I say, I think this is an opportunity for him to show exactly what he's all about.
And in our main event, we have Will Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher. It's the match that Ospreay wanted. Do you think could maybe slightly underestimate Kyle as a singles competitor?
I feel like if you were to ask me that question 6 weeks ago, I would say absolutely Will Ospreay is underestimating Kyle Fletcher. I feel that since he's been in the ring with him in that tag match, he's felt Kyle Fletcher is the real deal. He's realised, don't get, like these guys, Will competed against Kyle many years ago in Australia when Kyle was just a kid who resembled Mad Kirk and with long hair. But now Kyle is a man. And, you know, it's been so well documented about the size that Will Ospreay has piled on that Kyle Fletcher's gone under the radar. I mean, for Kyle Fletcher, his journey really began New Orleans, Rev Pro live in New Orleans. Himself and Mark Davis Dunkzilla teamed up against Hiroshi Tanahashi and Juice Robinson. And at the conclusion of that match, Aussie Open, they weren't victorious, but this was another one of those valuable learning lessons that, you know, we spoke about that JJ Gale could be having this Sunday. But for Kyle Fletcher, this was a real turning point. Tanahashi, the ace, he sat him down after the match and he gave him a pep talk and he said, "You're really, really good." He said, "You just need to put on more size." He said, "Don't do it all at once, do it gradually add to your frame." And anyone that's followed Kyle Fletcher's career, look at pictures from New Orleans and then look at them month after month after month after month. That slow, gradual progression. It's not been as dramatic as Will Ospreay's, you know, lockdown bod, you know. It's not been as dramatic as that, but it's gone under the radar. Because of that, it's gone unnoticed. And let's not forget that in the meantime, Kyle Fletcher has been battle tested. He's been battle tested against the likes of Minoru Suzuki, Zack Sabre Jr., Shingo. Kyle Fletcher's competed against the very best in the world. And one thing he'll say about his clash with Suzuki is he'll tell you the first contest they had with each other, Kyle Fletcher was scared. He was nervous. He lost that match alongside Mark Davis. But they came back. They came back bigger, better, stronger. And they won the rematch. Why? Kyle Fletcher will tell you is because he realised he wasn't made of glass. He realised he didn't need to be afraid of the legend, the myth of Minoru Suzuki. And yes, it hurts. But Kyle's got a chin on him and he can take that and he can hit back. And he can minimise the impact of those blows by hitting back harder. And all of these lessons combined have made Kyle Fletcher a much more complete, a much more well-rounded performer. They've made him a serious threat to the undisputed British Heavyweight Championship. And Will Ospreay found out firsthand when they met, that first exchange between them in that tag match, high-paced, high-octane, hard-hitting, back and forth, boom, boom, boom. Kyle Fletcher came out on top. Will Ospreay couldn't believe it. I think from that moment on, Will Ospreay knew he was in for the fight of his life, the undisputed British Heavyweight Championship. And, you know, I'll let you in on a little secret. The headline bout for Epic Encounters 2 was scheduled to be Kyle Fletcher versus Will Ospreay. The headline bout for Epic Encounters 3 was scheduled to be Ricky Knight Jr. versus Michael Oku. But Will Ospreay, after that tag match, he requested a tune-up match against Callum Newman. And he requested that, he requested that warm-up match. Many people can speculate the reasons why. He said it was because he wanted to get that ring rust off before having a high-profile singles contest. But do you think it was because he hadn't taken his preparation for Kyle Fletcher seriously? That's a genuine question. And right now, I believe that Will Ospreay is 100% focused, 100% serious about the contest. And as a result, I think it's going to bring the best out of Kyle Fletcher. And I will say he's absolutely not underestimating Kyle Fletcher. But again, 6 weeks ago, perhaps the answer would be very different.
Mm-hmm. Well, it promises to be a really great show. Is there anything you want to say to the fans before we go, if they're not excited enough already, just to get them extra hyped?
Well, no, all I'd say really is just thanks very much, everyone, for your support and continuing to watch Revolution Pro Wrestling. Tell people about it. The gift of professional wrestling is a wonderful thing. For anyone who's undecided, anyone who's not watched any of our Epic Encounters shows before, Epic Encounters 1 and 2 are now on rpwondemand.com. You can check it out with a 2-week free trial as well. So make sure you watch that, the replays of those 2 great shows. But I just want to stress, like I said at the top, I genuinely believe the quality of these shows are up there with our best shows that you'll call. And again, you might look at them and might be like, oh, it's not it's not flagship in terms of one of our big shows that you'll call is, I guess, main event after main event after main event after main event. And I believe the quality of these shows, many of these matches could be main event after main event after main event. But from a marquee perspective, it may not seem like that. But what I will say is match quality wise, it is absolutely that. And I think that these guys and girls are the top of their game. They're only getting better. Each and every show, they're getting better. Each and every match they get under their belt is another bit of ring rust, which is being shook off. And I am so excited for people to watch these matches. I'm so excited for people to enjoy British professional wrestling again. And I believe that this is just, it's a new beginning for us. It's a new start. It's another chapter. And whilst it might not be a chapter we thought we would be writing at the start of the year, it's another footnote in our history. It's another interesting part of our history. But it's a part that we're determined to learn from. It's a part that we're determined to grow from. And, be a part of our journey. Be a part of history. Watch Epic Encounters free this Sunday because it's going to be a phenomenal professional wrestling show. And it's just going to be a blast. It is. And I can't emphasize enough the fun I have calling these shows alongside Rob Lias. And for anyone who knows him, knows it's a bit of a chore to be hanging out with him at the best of times. But, when he's got a microphone in his hand and he's got free reign to talk for 2 hours, it's even harder, but I'm having a great time doing it. So yeah, come along to Fight this Sunday and enjoy the show. Let us know what you think. Share your feedback. Share the word of professional wrestling. Let's keep moving forward in a positive manner. And let's not let this latest setback of this new normal affect us. And let's keep fighting the good fight for the sport, the art of the sport of professional wrestling.
Thank you, Andy.